Aside from the Karen twin reveal and Zach being the father of one of the babies, I think one of the most common complaints about season 7 was that the show focused more so on the bruh side of things, the men, as opposed to the sisters. But more specifically, a bunch of people are like, hey, you know what? Season 7 should have been titled The Gary Show because there was way more focus on Gary than any of the sisters. And I don't know if I fully agree with that. To me personally, season 7 really recaptured the vibe of season 1. I don't think any other season of the show quite felt like season 1 except for season 7. And if you go all the way back to season 1, then you know for a fact when the show first came out, it was definitely the KJ Smith show featuring the sisters. Because at that time, KJ, to my recollection, was without a shadow of a doubt the most famous out of all the other actors. And when I'm talking about the actors, I'm talking about the sisters specifically. Remember, Crystal only had a very, very small recurring role in season 1. It wasn't until season 2 when Tyler gave her more, food on the plate to eat. And, like he said, like, look, I want to give you a little bit in season 1. And if you knock it out of the ballpark, I'll give you some more in season 2. And well, we saw what happened in season 2. Boom. Season 3. Boom. Season 4. Boom. Zatima. And here we are now. But Andy, as a character, she dominated season 1. Her entire story arc involving Gary, Jasmine, Leslie, Bellamy, Morris, that was the main through line of season 1. It was really the only storyline that people gave a crap about until Preston and Danny became a thing, because the Calvin and Sabrina thing, that was really played out within the first few episodes. I mean, it's like, Sabrina, I mean, let's be real. This dude, you're always questioning his sexuality. Even when he tells you he's straight, you don't believe him. And it's like either you want to be with this dude or not. So it's really not a question of you always, going back and forth with this. Then with Karen and Zach, that was a storyline that was it had some legs to it, but let's put it this way. When you watched an episode of Sistas, no doubt at least 60% of it focused more so on the Andy related stuff. So when you look at it from that perspective, season 7 did feel more like it was focused on the Gary stuff than Andy, because here's the thing, and I think I made this point in the season. Yeah, my retrospect. I just edited it yesterday, and I remember hearing myself say it. Andy kind of felt detached from the sisters, because in season 1, the sisters really didn't feel like a group. Yeah, they can hang out and whatnot, but in terms of like the inner workings of their individual lives, it was split in half. Karen was the only one to know about what Andy was doing. And then, Danny had a chip on her shoulder because she was always kept out of the loop. But the thing about season 7 was that Andy, she was spending more time with Fatima, obviously, because they work together. She was spending more time and talking with Penelope because they were trying to bring Gary down. And then, of course, she was actually in a relationship with Jordan. So even when she was with the girls, it really wasn't that long. They would have their little brunches or little get-togethers. But before you know it, oh, we got to go back to work. Oh, I got a date with my guys. So Andy really felt like she wasn't a part of the group, even though she was part of the group. And I think that the thing about Gary is that most of her time was spent trying to bring him down. And that's why I think Gary had a more, well, I don't even want to say had a more prominent role, because he's always been slated as a main character. But yeah, to some extent, I think that the show did focus on the guys. But to be honest, I don't really mind that, due to the fact that at least it kind of added more flavor to the storylines, if you ask me. I mean, let's be real here. If the writing didn't focus more on the guys as opposed to them just being quote unquote eye candy, or, just there to be the, blank slate boyfriends of the girls, there really wouldn't be much of them. There wouldn't be much of a need to keep them around. I mean, and this is just my personal opinion. I'm not saying I like Rich, Tony, and Jordan more than Preston and Aaron and Calvin. But at least with these guys, there's some substance to what they bring to the table. Like Tony with the ex-wife and kids, I found that compelling, as opposed to Preston just being around only for the sake of being Danny's punching bag, and then out of the blue having this girl from elementary school waiting at home for him, which was a complete ass pull. Mindy, that's her name, Mindy. Then with Calvin, it's like I said earlier, what's the point of keeping him around when it's like Sabrina just doesn't want him? I mean, at this point, he's just being a hater, and he's just filler in terms of his scenes. So it also helped that Jordan and his boys were friends. So whenever the bros wanted to talk, they can, go to each other and talk. Because you never saw Calvin and Preston having a conversation like that. You never saw, Aaron and Calvin having a conversation, or Aaron and Preston. But the fact that these three dudes were friends actually made the scenes flow better, if you ask me. Sure, some of those scenes could be filler, but let's be honest here. They were doing just what the girls are doing, getting together to talk about their relationship issues. So I personally didn't have an issue with it. And then when it comes to Gary, I mean, look, dude was unhinged. And it was arguably the Gary show, but at the same time, Cheeto's acting is what sold it for me. That's why I'm not going to sit up here and complain, oh, there was just way too much Gary. I honestly didn't have that much of an issue with Gary. It's just the characters around him that pissed me off, specifically the way they wrote Andy. It's just dumb. And then Penelope going to confront him. Yeah, it's just weird to me how they did that. But yeah, this was definitely the Gary show. But, I mean, with the Gary show, could that mean my boo Jasmine's coming back? Well, then again, he got stabbed, so it's like, unless she did it, I don't know. But wishful thinking on my part. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think Season 7 focused way too much on Gary? Or do you feel like me, where it's like, well, I mean, if Season 7 was truly a way to recapture Season 1, then that's exactly what they did. They gave us a lot of Gary. So I mean, look at the season finale with the feds and everybody rolling up to that country house, and, Leslie doing the investigation for Jasmine. So if you're complaining about too much Gary, guess what? This isn't the first season to give us more Gary than some of the other other characters, specifically the sisters. So let's talk about it in the comments, like and subscribe, and I'll catch you all in the next video.